Greetings, and once again, welcome to CopBLUE's I've Got Your Six. As we always do, we start with a saying or a quote from Marcus Aurelius, and today's quote is, "It's not events that disturb people, it's their judgments concerning them." And I'll let you delve from that what you will as we go through the video. Today's guest is Candace Gleason from Darlington, South Carolina, and she is a longtime EMS worker, paramedic, rescuer, a friend, confidant, all kinds of great things. And we wanted to get her to tell us about how she survived her time as a public servant, because that's really what she was, and got to do a lot of really interesting things and do a lot of training. Has actually dived all over the world, done all kinds of cool stuff. So we're going to talk to her about that, and we're also going to talk a little bit about how you come out on the other side of it, how you survive after the job is over. How do you choose something else to go into? Not that you ever leave that servant spirit behind, but that you go on to do something else. Reinvent yourself, if you will. So tell us about yourself, Candace.
So my name is Candace Gleason, and I was born and raised right here in Darlington, South Carolina. When I was in high school, we had a class called Health Occupations, and we were able to go out into the community, different health jobs, and just decide if that was something that we liked to do. And the first day that I went to EMS, I decided that day that's what I wanted to do, which was interesting because before that day I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I worked in EMS for 20 years.
Wow. So you became a paramedic?
I did. I was a paramedic for the majority of that, and also a technical rescue specialist with the state of South Carolina with the search and rescue team.
So tell me what it is that you do, what you did for that. I mean, what did they do?
With the USAR team?
Mm-hmm.
So the USAR team is comprised of usually EMS workers and fire departments across the state. So we would do large scale events such as 9/11, Katrina, and even smaller ones statewide, such as the 1,000-year flood that we had a few years ago. There are several different facets of that team. We had search and rescue, we had technical rescue, which is what I was doing. We had a dog team, a medical team, but since I did medical for a living, I really wanted to get a different aspect of the rescue world. And we did high angle, low angle rescue, confined space. Within that team, we also had a smaller team, which was the HART team. It was a helicopter aquatic rescue team.
Oh, wow.
And I joined that as well. I was one of the founding members of that. And we did that for 12 years until I retired.
Oh, wow. So my next question is, and kind of a lead into this is, local EMS workers, local police officers, local firefighters, they're not just local. When events like 9/11 take place, when hurricanes come, these are the folks that are out there, well, where the rubber meets the road. They're not just in South Carolina, they're in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, New York, all kinds of different places. We're all going to come together and work together eventually. So my question for her is, I know you said you didn't know what you wanted to do, but why did you decide to become a helper?
You know, I've been asked that question a lot, and I don't know that there's any, just aha moment that I decided, except for that day. I enjoyed the excitement of it. I enjoyed being able to help people. It's just one of those things to whenever you are put in the right place, you just know that that's where you're supposed to be.
That's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I tried.
You did good. So, and I know that you've seen this in your career, and I saw it in mine, where, we have individuals within our professions that the accumulation of woe, and I like to call this a big bag of woe that we carry around on our shoulders, that is, we got this child died, this person, was murdered, so on and so forth. We went to this horrific scene, and it grows on you and gets heavier and heavier as you go. How did you manage to survive your career and not come out on the other side of stark-raving lunatic?
Well, that's a very good question, and I've been asked that one, just by different friends and things. And I think early on I had a mentor that told me, said, never forget, you did not put that person in that situation. You were just there to try to help them as much as you can. You know, on the ambulance, we're not here to, we can't save everybody. I think that it helps me knowing that, you know, I'm there just to do what honestly God needs me to do.
Right.
And whatever is going to happen is going to happen in the end anyway. You know, none of us are getting out of here alive.
That's a good point.
You know, death is really the end game, and as morbid, I guess, as that may sound, you know, that's the honest truth of it. And a mentor early on told me, you know, you didn't put him in that. You're just trying to do the best that you can do, and you use your resources, which may be your knowledge, your you know, your equipment, the medications that we give, and we do the best we can. Once you see something, it's always with you. It always stays with you, and it becomes a part of you. But you really just have to understand that as long as you've done the best that you can do, as long as I did the best that I could do with every patient as far as compassion, respect, the health care that I was able to provide, then I could leave and go home that next morning and with a good conscience.
And yeah, that's a wonderful answer, and that's something that I think a police officer in Port Orange, Florida, or a police officer in Sacramento, California could learn from, and that is, you know, you just do the best you can, and you know, treat people with as much respect as you're able, even if you have to put somebody in jail. And trust me, I did it a bunch of times. And you try and be as nice as you can be. Some people won't let you be nice, but as long as you did the best you can do and your conscience is clear, I think that helps as far as waking up the next day and looking yourself in the mirror. So I know you probably saw more than your fair share of suicides.
I did.
And what are some of the things that you can tell the guys and girls that are out there on the street as far as, you know, some of the symptoms that you might want to look for in a coworker as far as they're, you know, taking that downward spiral? What are some of the things to look for?
Well, over the years, I've noticed, and of course, you know, I can only speak from my experience, was whenever you start seeing someone pull away, whenever they no longer enjoy the things that they have always enjoyed, when they start giving away their personal belongings that you know they really hold value. And that is whenever I would notice that that's kind of where they're starting to think that that's the option they're wanting to take.
Did you see that a lot with in your career as far as with your fellow EMS workers?
You know, I did not. But I think being from such a small town and knowing everyone that I worked with on a personal level, even outside of work, that made it to where we really took care of each other as far as emotionally, and physically as well. You know, if we had someone that was out with a sickness or an illness, or their family was sick or ill, you know, we would always kind of rally around them and make sure that they were taken care of. And I think that that has really helped with the ones that I know while I was in the EMS with to keep everybody as mentally healthy as we possibly could.
Which is really, once again, another great lesson. And you know, whether you're in Seattle or whether you're in New York City, you know, it's the most important thing that we do every day, besides hit the clock and go home safe, is look out for one another and be there to support one another. Unfortunately, there's a lot of, I'm not exactly what you'd call it, basically giving each other a hard time. And I think that, unfortunately, the stigma that's attached to mental health issues in law enforcement or in EMS or whatever, no one wants to show weakness because, you know, that's not what we have to be the shining light in the clouds of chaos, and we have to be the person that's bringing order, and sometimes it takes a toll on us. So
Of course it does.
absolutely. So any suggestions on what you think that if you're riding around with someone, or which you guys in EMS did that, of course we did that too in police service, is there any suggestions that you could think of to try and help that person?
Absolutely. You know, anytime you have a bad call, we would always sit on them on the back of the ambulance and do our paperwork and talk about it. That's the biggest thing, I think, is just talking about the events that happen, because if people keep them bottled up inside, that's whenever it starts becoming a problem. But whenever you feel comfortable in the environment and you're able to talk about what's happened, you are no longer holding that all by yourself, you're sharing it. And when you can share the burden, share the load, it becomes a lot lighter for you.
Well, that was very astute. That was a very good answer. Much better than what I could have come up with. So after all this time, and now that you're out on the other side of it, and you've discovered life after public service, you became a chef.
I did.
Wow, she's the one and only chef I know, incidentally, which I think is pretty cool. But the whole thing that I'm getting at is that, you know, at what point did you finally get to where you felt like it's enough is enough, I need to go and do something else?
The EMS system that I left is certainly not the EMS system that I began with. And although I still love to go into work every day, I still love taking care of the patients, and I still loved the job, I didn't like the political aspect that it started taking on. I didn't like where the healthcare system in general is going. And so I decided that before I got that burnout and no longer cared, before I got complacent, I knew that it was time to get out, because I would never want my patient care, an innocent person who doesn't deserve it, to suffer because of my mental health. So to keep myself healthy, I decided that it was time to move on.
So sometimes I guess you just have to say, hey, enough is enough. I've certainly been there myself. Thank you once again for joining us today with CopBLue. I've got your six, and remember, the most important thing you can do every day is hit that clock and go home safe. Thank you.